welcome all of you once again. It's Backpack on. Still, we're moving around Egypt. Sometimes we move outside Cairo to bring you more about the important sites located on the Red Sea. Some other times we travel to the historical sites to Upper Egypt, and sometimes we find out together more about Cairo. In Cairo, you have many different places to visit, whether we are talking about modern Egypt or ancient Egypt or historical sites. Sometimes you have some places to visit, like, for example, the palaces, that each palace can tell you more about the era it belongs to. In addition, of course, to the religious sites, like, for example, mosques, churches, and many other important places. Let's find out more about Cairo and more about the beautiful sites located in Cairo.
El Muazi Street is one of the best locations, highly recommended to anyone who is interested to learn more about Egypt's history. It witnessed different periods of time, each of which left its mark on one of these buildings located on both sides of the street, and each one reflects a different style of architecture. It is quite clear that Egypt is famous in particular for the diversity and multitude of its Islamic monuments, which were built through different eras. The buildings of Islamic monuments in Egypt has started since the Muslims first opened Egypt in 641 AD. From this point on, Egypt has been ruled by many Islamic dynasties, starting with the Rashidun Caliphs, the Ptolemies, the Fatimids, Ayyubids, the Mamluks, and the Ottomans, ending with rulers from the family of Muhammad Ali. And each of these periods had its own requirements and characteristics, which were clearly reflected on the shape, size, and style of the architecture. Moreover, each ruler tried his best to build structures that express the features of the period he went through. One of the oldest Islamic monuments in Egypt, and its builder, Al-Hakim, who is also one of the most famous caliphs that ever ruled Egypt, is the Mosque of Al-Hakim, located at the end of El Muazi Street, very close to Bab al-Futuh, one of Egypt's ancient gates. Also, it is very clear to the famous Khan al-Khalili market. Therefore, it is always a good idea to explore the monuments in Al-Mu'izz Street after visiting the most famous tourist market in the world, putting in consideration that Cairo one day only consisted of this narrow street and the areas around it. The street contains a huge variety of Islamic monuments. The Mosque of Al-Hakim is the second largest Fatimid mosque in Egypt, and its design is similar to that of the Mosque of Ahmad ibn Tulun. The mosque was mainly built out of brick, other than the two unique minarets that were built out of stone. The mosque consists of an open courtyard, the Sahr, with 4 halls which are riwaq surrounding it from the 4 directions, and the largest and the most beautiful among them is the Qibla Ruwaq, which identifies the direction to Mecca, where Muslims should be facing while praying. The Mosque of Al-Hakim is famous for 3 main architectural characteristics. The first is the memorial entrance with its huge size and fabulous decorations. This entrance was the first of its kind to be built in Egypt. The second beautiful architectural aspect of this mosque is its wide white marble floor that reflects the mosque itself from inside. A lot of flakes of birds are usually seen flying around the mosque and standing on its amazing floor as they drink water from its fountain. The third and most unparalleled feature of Al-Hakim Mosque is its uniquely designed 2 minarets, which are located at the north and south corners of its western entrance. They are the oldest surviving minarets in Egypt. Furthermore, there isn't any minaret in Egypt that would look like those of Al-Hakim Mosque because of the rare design that was imported to Egypt from North Africa, the origin of the Fatimids. The minarets were built by dropping them inside 2 huge square stone structures that appear clearly from outside the mosque. This was how the Fatimid used to build their minarets in Tunisia and North Africa. The mosque would also appear similar to that of Al-Azhar in some factors, as they both have this curve in the walls of the prayer halls, except that these of Al-Hakim Mosque is much higher. Both mosques also share having three small domes in the Qibla prayer hall. And by the way, the Mosque of Al-Hakim was not always used as a mosque or a prayer area, as it was used for many other purposes through its history because of its wide space. The Mosque of Al-Hakim was used also as a prison for the Crusaders and a horse stable in the reign of Saladin, and a storage area for food and weapons in the period of the French occupation of Egypt. At the end of the French occupation, the French soldiers left the mosque in a very poor state. The mosque was not renovated until the period of Caliph Tawfiq, when he decided to transform the mosque into an Islamic art museum, before the museum was established in Port Said Street. The Mosque of Al-Hakim was even used as a school in the times of the former Egyptian president Gamal Abdel Nasser. And today, the mosque receives numerous visitors from around the world to view the fascinating ancient Islamic architecture. The mosque is also still used for prayer up till now. But artistic beauty of Islamic monuments is not limited to mosques only. It also includes houses and palaces side by side with fortresses and architectural constructions. El Sahimi House is one of the prominent houses in Cairo that dates back to the 18th century and is regarded as a perfect example for the style of decoration and designing at that time. Its entrance is even amazing. It makes one feel as if it is a time machine. One of the most interesting things or features of this house is the mashrabiyya, one of the beautiful designs of that age. To Western eyes, there was always a magic to the mashrabiyyas, those handsome wooden screens that once masked the exteriors of buildings throughout the Arab East. Mashrabiyas were veils drawn against the outside world, and behind their cool shield of latticework, those inside did recline in shaded privacy, while gazing out at the tumult of the streets below. The facade of a Sahimi house is beautified with some attractive mashrabiyya windows, imparting on the street and some other simple decorations that reflect the spirit of the 16th and 17th century. And this is the first attractive part. interior plan of this house includes some parts that were dedicated only to women, known as haramlik, and others for men, known as salamlik. The main portal of this house is followed by a vast open courtyard with a fountain in its center. And the courtyard was annexed with an area with nice seats where men were gathering for negotiating work affairs, and if there is no stranger, women were allowed to join the men. The second floor of the house was enclosing a loggia, or central hall with huge windows and a nice open dome for ventilation and illumination, also designed in a way that reflect the impact of the Mamluk style on the Ottoman one. Mamluk sultans and emirs were known for their jealous patronage of art and architecture throughout the Mamluk period. Their projects could include a single mausoleum or a small charitable building, while their larger architectural complexes typically combine many functions into one or more buildings. And these could include charitable functions and social services, such as a mosque, a hospital, a school, or a sabil, which is a place for dispensing water to the local population, or a commercial functions, such as wikala or khan, which is a caravanserai to house merchants and their goods. These buildings and their institutions were protected by Waqf agreements, which rendered them the status of charitable endowments or trusts, which were legally inalienable in Islamic law. This allowed the Sultan's legacy to be assured through architectural projects, and his tomb, and potentially the tombs of his family, was typically placed in a mausoleum attached to his religious complex. Worth admiration in this part is the hall, the beautiful polychrome inlays and marble patterns that were usually used for decorating houses and mosques alike in this period. In addition to that, the courtyard with its high ceiling was ornamented with attractive brassworks that highlight the magnificent style of decoration of the medieval Islamic period. The Haramlik of El Sehemi house, like most of the houses of the wealthy people, was annexed to bath area since middle-class members were usually using the public baths. Of special note in this part of the house are the luxuriously decorated ceiling, windows of stained glass and lattice wooden works ornamenting the corners of the Haramlik. In addition to the Haramlik and the central courtyard, there are some richly decorated private rooms for women. And within the garden enclosure to the house, one can find a well, storerooms, and a flour mill that were usually attached to the houses of the wealthy people. Worth mentioning thing is that El Sehemi house is used as a museum and a center for cultural meetings nowadays.